Welcome to the Local Dreamer podcast, and I'm your local dreamer, Lila. Back in 2020, I woke up in the middle of the night out of a dead sleep, just eyes open, sat up, and I heard the words, "Don't forget the red dragon." I have no idea what that meant. I take these things to heart and I write it down and I try to remember in the middle of the night what I heard. And so in the morning I woke up, I shared it with my husband, and I just got on a journey of what does this mean? And it could mean a multitude of different things, but I'm like, I just really want to really find out what it really, really means. And for a long time now, this is a few years ago, we've been just praying about it, thinking about it. And as things opened up with travel, because of COVID, we were really excited to travel with the family, and we made all kinds of plans, had all kinds of great creative ideas of what we could do as a family, where we could go. And every time we would come up with an idea or a location, I would hear the phrase come back to me, "But don't forget the red dragon." And it was well, we could go to Ireland and live with a farm family and learn how to homestead from them, and the kids would love it. And it was yeah, you could do that. That would be fine, but don't forget the red dragon. And so through all the things that we came up with, we kind of settled on following that phrase, "Don't forget the red dragon." And after a very long story of researching, praying, and doing all of our gymnastics and stretches and cartwheels to figure out this mystery of the red dragon, my husband and I settled on going to Wales. And Wales has a flag that has this big red dragon on it, and it's not just obvious. I kind of found that out early on, but I just wasn't sure if that was the red dragon that I wasn't supposed to forget. But long story short, we settled on Wales, and to Wales we went. And traveling from Hawaii to Wales is far. We were completely wrecked and jet lagged when we got in. And then we had a 4-hour drive that we had to drive ourselves to the West Coast to go to where we were staying. And it was late at night, and we just laugh still to this day that we made it in the dark, jet lag, no idea where we're going. So that was our first night in Wales. And that next morning I wake up and I'm hearing Irish pub, this Welsh folk, fun, festive pub music. And I'm hearing this and I start to open my eyes and I realize, oh, that's not in this building. It was in my spirit. It was in my ears. It was in my mind. And I was hearing this and it woke me up, and I was like, oh, that was cool. It was a really sweet welcome to the land of Wales. And as I got up, I pulled out the book that I chose to bring on my trip, and it's called The Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen. Really incredible author who just has nuggets of gold. So go check it out. The rest of this episode is a spin-off of what was spoken to my heart, launching off of the title of the book, Life of the Beloved, and then what I saw after I got into the book. I closed my eyes and immediately I saw an hourglass, like a sand timer. But the view was from the top and it was slightly off to the side, so I couldn't see the bottom half. All I could see was the top half of the sand timer looking from the top down, so the sand was all funneling into the center. It was massively wide with miles and just tons of sand falling into the center quickly, evenly, and consistently. It never thinned and it never changed its speed. It was just this constant pour into the middle. And in the midst of seeing this, I saw two hands that were rolling one over the other. And as I saw this, I instinctively knew it was creating. It was making and forming with its hands. And then I realized, wow, this is where I was made. These hands are forming me. These were God's hands forming me. As he was forming me, he was telling me, "You are my beloved." And his hands would turn over one over another. "You are my beloved." And then it went from him forming me. I was realizing I was watching these hands forming each person in my family. And as he formed each one, it was, "You are my beloved." And from my family, it just started expanding to my friend circle, and then to my acquaintances, to the children I know and those that I teach. And as the hands were moving, I just saw God forming each one of them. And as he was forming them, he was telling each one, you are my beloved. And finally, my eyes were just open to like, this is where all people are formed by the hand of God. And in this creating and forming, each being was being spoken over in the midst of creation, that you are my beloved. By design, being loved was part of the process. God was loving each one and speaking, you are my beloved, over each one that he created as his hands rolled one over the other. And I realized like our belovedness was key to us being made. And this activity was never ending and constant. It was eternal. It was just this constant creating, constant speaking. You are my beloved. Lila, you are my beloved. Oh, my mom, my sister, my dad, my cousins, like all these people in my family. And the circle just got wider and wider till really I saw all of the human race being created in this place and being loved in the process of creation and being spoken over. And I was just filled. My heart was just like open wide to the reality that all human beings were created in this place. God told each person he created, you are my beloved. As I was watching all of this happen, I heard that this place is called eternity past. And that's just random and weird, I know. And I thought it was random and weird when I heard it. And in my mind, I was like, okay, eternity past. What does eternity mean anyway? And what is eternity? And how can that which is eternal have a past? And it was like I was poking God on the shoulder. It was like, excuse me, sir. How can that which is eternal have a past? Because I heard you say it was eternity past. Can you explain this to me? I don't talk to God like that, but sometimes I feel like an annoying person. Like, excuse me, sir. But God is so gracious and patient. And I'm finding out how he really does like to answer the questions in our heart and talk to us and show us things. So as I wondered these things, I immediately saw a dot. And I knew that dot, that is eternity. I was asking God, what is eternity? And boom, a dot. That was eternity. And I wondered, how does this dot or this circle work? If this is eternity, where is the timeline of man? Because man has a timeline. We've all seen it. We're all taught the timeline of how things happened over history. So if this dot is eternity, how does the timeline of man work with this dot? And I realized that it's all about perspective. So I'm seeing a circle, but when I change my perspective, the circle could turn into a line, like if you're looking down a pipe. But because you're straight on, it looks just like a dot. But when I swung my view over to the side, over to the left, and looked around the corner kind of, I realized that this circle or this dot was actually the end of a rope that was long behind it. And as I changed my perspective from looking dead on at the end of the rope, I look around and I see there's this whole long rope behind just that circle. And that is where I saw the timeline of man. So just for fun, let's put some points on this timeline. We'll keep it simple. We're not going to assume this is the beginning of all time. This is just for the timeline of man. So like we'll start with Adam at the far left. If you want to put the creation story there where God created Adam, let's put Adam at the far left of this line. And then if we jump to the right, maybe like halfway, we could put the time of Jesus, where Jesus was on the earth and he was born, and that is a marker point. And then if you jump a little further to the right, you could make a marker representing today, the present moment, where we are right now. And then there will be a little room after us for whatever's to come in the future. And there you have a timeline within just that one dot or point. By changing your perspective, by changing the place where you are viewing, we can see that what was eternity, that dot, and if I look and change my perspective, wow, the timeline of man opens up around the corner. But as I look at the timeline of man, which is just this rope that's so tight that just creates a very straight line, I can see a beginning and I can see where the end will be. I don't know how long it will take to get to that end, but I'm looking at just a line. I can see a beginning and an end, and I'm wondering, okay, God, you said this is called eternity past. How can this be eternal if it has a past, a beginning? I'm looking at the left side of the line, and that is the start. That is the past. And if I look to the right, that's the end of the rope. How can that be eternal if I can see it drops off, it ends? It doesn't just keep going off the page. And I changed my perspective yet again, swung back to my original perspective of the dot, which God said, boop, dot, that's eternity. And I'm looking at it. And the more I look at it, I realized that this point or circle that I'm looking at was full. It was deep, as if you could reach into the center and keep reaching and even crawl into the speck. The depth of this dot contained eternity. Everything that was, that is, and is to come is within this dot or this circle. And I proceeded to see the hands forming each one saying, "You are my beloved." I was seeing in this dot the creation of Adam, the first of the beloved to come upon the earth. Then Jesus being baptized and called my beloved. And then where I am today, for the first time, really hearing for myself, Lila, you are the beloved. I'm looking into this circle, into this dot, and I see all of these moments like lenses layered one upon another, and the light of Christ shining through, and all of these active moments and individual moments are all happening at once. Although it looks like I'm looking at a flat dot or circle, the reality is that all of time is layered upon this flat looking circle, but it's not flat at all. It goes deep. And I can just see within it that God was, He is yet to come, that God fills all time, that God surrounds all time, that God even further is, boom, outside of time. I really hope I'm not losing you with all this. I am trying my best to articulate what I saw. And if this is just nonsense to you, just let it go, let it fall to the side, let it drop to the floor. Don't even worry about it. And if anything, maybe this will just spur you on to get your own revelation of what eternity is. Because this topic is obviously a loaded one. You really need mental flexibility to push past our finite minds into an infinite possibility. So I'm just getting started with this. This is just like the baby steps for me. But hopefully it just prods you on to go for it yourself. Okay, I'll bring it back to the earthly realm here where we can refer to something tangible that we can reference. Just for fun, I'm throwing this in. I just thought of this as I was preparing everything, and maybe it will help step you in the direction of just thinking differently or how different things can be true at the same time, okay? So in stage lighting, there's different filters that you can put in front of a light, and it can change the color and the mood of the stage for whatever story you're trying to tell. I kind of look at the different points in history in the timeline are like if you took filters out of those specific points. So if we say creation was the green filter, it really happened. It's really green. It's a individual moment in time. And say we pull the red filter from when Jesus was baptized, he's being called the beloved, and that's an individual point in time. And then if I pull the blue filter from the present, me right now, my moment in time, and if you layer those filters onto each other and shine light through, it actually creates white light is the light color we see. So even though all these things are individual colors or moments, you could say, when the light shines through, it is filled with white light, and that could essentially represent eternity, and all of these individual colors represent the individual moments in time on a timeline. So each part retains its own characteristics, its own moment, but still we see the white light at once, at one time, and it's shining through all of those moments. But all of those moments have to be present at that time for that to work. Okay, I'm going to give that a break. Whew, that's a lot of mental stretching. So we'll be done with that part right now. And most of all, the really beautiful part was that in all of my searching for myself to feel and to learn and to know and be connected with my belovedness, I was really expanded to see the belovedness of all of those around me, whether I knew them and even if I never met them. My ability to receive my belovedness gave me eyes to see the belovedness of others. And that's how I knew right in my heart that this is God, because I don't see people like this. And that was a gift, and my eyes were opened. And as you open your heart to your belovedness, it's really just beautiful how God just is constantly putting out his heart onto us for others and for all. And you really are overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, you love everyone. Like, that's what blew my mind about this whole thing. So going back to Henry Nouwen, I gotta quote this guy, and I have to again tell you to go check out his book, Life of the Beloved. It is so full of gold. This is just a taste of what Henry Nouwen has to offer in his writings. He says, self-rejection is the greatest enemy of the spiritual life. It contradicts the sacred voice that calls us beloved. End quote. We are made in love, for love, and by love. Anything that tells us otherwise is a liar and is a lie. For us to have self-rejection is to be going against the core truth of our existence. And that is a tool of the enemy to get us into a place where we reject ourselves, because one of the core truths of our existence is the fact that God calls us the beloved. And I'm going to quote him again. The fact that we are restless, searching, and hungry is proof that we have tasted to some degree what we are looking for. We can only look for something we have already found. We can search for beauty because we've seen it. In every human, we have the desire for love because we came from love. End quote. That is, I saw it. We know love. I saw it with my own eyes. I can say I don't know what love is. What is it to be loved? I can say those things, but in my hardware of how I was created, I carry the ability and the capacity to receive love because I was formed in love and I was spoken over. The words were spoken over me. You are my beloved. You are dearly loved. From the moment of creation, I was dearly loved. You were dearly loved. So we know it in our DNA. Even if we don't feel it presently, we have been loved and we are loved and we will be loved. We have the ability to love others because we have been fully loved. Because he first loved us, we can love. And continue quoting him, he says, we are intimately loved long before our parents, teachers, spouses, children, and friends could love us or wound us. And that is what that quote right there is what just sealed the deal for me. This was so powerful when I read it because I find it just incredible that before anyone could make me or break me, I was already fully loved. Anything else that comes along in life, whether it is good or bad, positive or negative, it's all just fringe. We are and have been established at the time of the formation of our being. The Creator formed us in love and sealed it with our belovedness. We are dearly loved by God, and our heads are on his chest, and no one can tear your head away from his chest because it's there to begin with. He formed you as dearly loved, holding you into his chest, saying, you are my beloved. He loved us before anyone else could love us. He loved us before anyone else could wound us. I can make excuses and I can leave blocks unchallenged in my life that tell me I don't know love. But I need to remind myself as many times as it takes that before I was even here, I was loved. And we need to remind each other that before your mother set eyes on you to love you or to wound you, you were fully loved. Before your cousin could abuse you, you were fully loved. Before your friends could betray you, you were fully loved. Before anyone could praise you, you were called the beloved. Before he could say that he made you, you were fully loved. And before you ever heard the words, I hate you, you were called the beloved. Before anyone could love or wound you here on this earth, you were called the beloved by Creator God. God sees you where you really are, with your head on his chest, your head leaning against the chest of Jesus. Some might feel far, far from God, far from that place, far across the room, and feel as if they're just looking at others snuggled up in there and think, man, I'm too far and it's too hard. There's no way I'll get that close to God. But the reality is that God sees you where you really are, which is there, with your ear to his chest, where you can feel his breath, close to Jesus, close to the heart of God. And it's even more radical to think that there's nothing I can do in and of myself to get closer to God. My distance is all in my head. My distance is a lie, and my distance is not true, because God sees us where we all really are, which is with our heads on his chest. And we have to shake off that lie and break off that lie that I need to do this, and that before I can be that close to God. That's actually a total lie. Just to clarify that, there's nothing that you can do to move you from across the room to the chest of Jesus if you're feeling far away, because the reality is that you're there, and you have to accept the fact that you're there and work through you feeling far, and by faith believe that you are there because God says you're there. God has called you the beloved, which means near to the heart. God calling us beloved tells us where we are. It tells us we are near to his heart. Anything that tells us otherwise and makes us feel far from God is a lie. So we need to exhaust ourselves completely. We have to surrender to the fact that I can do nothing to get quote unquote closer to God. And we need to bring out faith, which is believing in that which is unseen as if it was seen. We have faith that we are close to God. I don't feel close to God, and I don't see that I'm close to God, but by faith, I'm going to receive my position as the beloved, where God tells me I am dearly loved, I am near to his heart, and I'm going to believe that as if I could see right now my head on Jesus's heart. So let go of any plan and any way that you think you're going to make your way across the room to the heart of Jesus, and just surrender to the fact that you are already there. By faith, be there even if you can't see it. Act as if you can and receive where you are today. God calls each and every one of us the beloved. We are dearly loved, and before anyone could make us, before anyone could break us, we were fully loved. That to me has changed my life, believing that before I could ever be praised for anything good or cool that I did, and before anyone could hurt me, abuse me, mistreat me, betray me, I was fully loved. All of those things are just fringes around the edge, because the core of who I am, the core of my existence, the core of your existence is the beloved, near to the heart, our head resting on the chest of Jesus, hearing the heartbeat of heaven, hearing the heartbeat of the Messiah. And it's time for us to rest there and take a big inhale. And I'm never going to let it out. Even if I pass out, I'm going to hold my breath because I don't want to let it out. That's how I feel sometimes. I just want to suck it all in and keep sucking it in. So good. Let the reality of God fully loving you before anyone ever knew you. God fully loved you. Let that sink in. There can be nothing added to it and nothing taken away. We are fully loved. So no matter what kind of fame, success, and glory comes to us on this earth, no matter what kind of terrible circumstances befall on us, no matter the depth of the pain that we endure in our physical bodies, we have been fully loved. Let yourself be brought back to that reality that you are fully loved. God fully loved you in the beginning, and that fullness will last throughout eternity. It is set, it is done, it was put in at the moment of your forming and creation, and it is something that no man has given you and no man can take away. Thank you for listening. I'm leaving the last 2.5 minutes for just you and the music right now. Inhale your belovedness and enjoy.